Right. Let's get that light. A lot of fun. So, intro. Hello, YouTube. Scamp Wolf here. Back with another video for your viewing pleasure, and it's another music talk, and it's a big one tonight because, of course, the new Demon Hunter album, at least the standard edition, is on Spotify, and I just heard it, but also I heard the new Fire from the Gods album as well. So, yeah, those two albums is specifically are going to be talking about tonight. Um, but first, let's dive into singles. There wasn't really much other than a couple of things that was stuff I didn't really care about as much. So yeah, real quickly before we get into Demon Hunter, I'm assuming a lot of you or whoever's viewing are probably wondering about the Demon Hunter album and all that stuff. Like Fire from the Gods is gonna be first with their album Soul Revolution. Came out at 9 o'clock here. So yeah, I figured I'd talk about that a little bit because I do talk about all kinds of stuff. So in rock and metal, so let's talk about this for a bit. Fire from the Gods, Soul Revolution. I don't think it's as good as the other two albums, but it's good. I figured it was just going to be just plain old good. It's not like I think Narrative, their debut, at least the debut major label, is their best. Um, um, it's kind of hard to rank a band who has the the ranking for this band is their first album is their best, and then their most recent album is not their best. So they only have three albums now, so like it could change. They could. Oh, I mean, it could change. Um, they could make an album better than Soul Revolution, or like tons of albums that could be ranked differently or whatever. But Soul Revolution is by far the weakest album, but it's still pretty good. That's all I'll say. One pet peeve that I do have is the rolling 808s on certain tracks. Songs it doesn't really need to be there, as much. Because this is is I understand they have to go to the rap side or whatever like that, and that's perfectly solid there. But in the rock songs, it's you're hearing a really loud moth right in front, right in your eardrums, just like that. Especially on tracks like The Message, that is probably my least favorite song on here because it's I want to hear the guitars and stuff. I don't need to have some going on in the back. I don't need to hear some clicking that drives me nuts, going on in the background on the song. Like I don't like the trap beats or whatever. They really do kind of distract from even on the good songs. But the good songs are enough to save it. And the fact is that you know they are trying some new things. Love is Dangerous is more ballad-ish. And when it comes to hard rock, they are one of the better bands. I'm sorry, I'm yawning so much, guys. I'm kind of tired, but yeah, what I was saying, they're good at making hard rock stuff like SOS, World So Cold, and especially Be Free. Those songs in particular are pretty good, in my opinion. In my opinion, and the closing track, Collapse, is probably one of the best songs on the album, in my opinion. It's a heavier one with some melody, and it's pretty good. But yeah, it's not like mind blowing or anything. Like, but I just think the previous two albums were better constructed, better written, and all that stuff than this album. And there are well written and well constructed songs on this album too. Like I said, SOS, World So Cold, Be Free, Collapse, even Love Is Dangerous as well. But the album's just good. It's not great. It's just good. So I'll give it 7 out of 10 for that. So yeah, and now since I gave Fire from the Gods a rating, we can now finally talk about the new Demon Hunter album, Exile. And this is going to be a pretty long one because like there's a lot leading up to this moment. Just got to move some stuff around. There's been a lot that's been leading up to the release of Demon Hunter's new album, and like I kind of want to like recap a lot of stuff, like because Exile was teased on their acoustic album that came out, Songs of Death and Resurrection. It was teased on the vinyl version, and we're looking forward to it for like almost 2 years, like well over a year and a half. We were waiting for this album. Oh, so sorry. So sorry for yawning so much. I don't know why I'm doing that, but I mean, like, uh, yeah, like of course with all the one, two, three, four, five, six songs, 7 songs. You can out "Praise the Void," which was the song that was teased from the Songs of Death and Resurrection album, and then here it is with um, this, and then we had to wait for it got delayed, and then they sold the album to fans at their shows, which is kind of a little bit infuriating, a little bit because it seems like the band was caring a little bit more about some fans, but not others. But that's beside the whole point. I made a bunch of stuff about Demon Hunter, and I do kind of feel a little bit bad about that, but I do think that it was kind of just getting their attention a little. I don't know what I'm saying necessarily. Like it was kind of just like because they know better, and like they just they're just messed up. All that. So here we are at Exile, and I'm going to give my opinion in a little bit, but I will talk about everything that's been leading up to this album. This is going to be a longer kind of examination, as you might know, because like we kind of have a lot to talk about. They kind of have a lot to like build up past or whatever. So yeah, we got to talk about the late 2010s era of Demon Hunter with Outlive, War and Peace, which there's some like it just wasn't well. Those 3 albums in particular that I mentioned were not well received by a lot of people. Like some of them like immediately didn't like it, while others like the consensus has gone down. Like Outlive especially. Like there were people that were defending it and then it went down, and the same with War and Peace. And so, with 3 albums that were easily among their weakest in their repertoire, you know, there was room to like there was an opportunity for them to get better and not make the same mistakes that they made on you know on those albums, because those albums they just were not good enough. I mean even Outlive was pretty bad, I must say. War is bad. Peace is a little bit better, but it's just so bland to me. Like there isn't really much to those three albums that I mentioned. So with the next album, kind of had to be good in order for like things to work out better. It kind of had to, like, I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm just trying to say like Exile um, should any future should albums should be like the best, not the best album ever, but like at least good, at least return to like Demon Hunter's glory days and stuff like that, or at least have a sense that Demon Hunter was like still had some creative juices flowing and stuff like that. So that's what I was like, and that's what I kind of got from the two singles as well. Freedom is Dead and Silence the World, featuring Tom England and Evergrey. I did get that from those two singles. Like Freedom is Dead is easily one of the best heavier songs from the band in a while. Like, and then Silence of the World is a nice little like ballad and stuff. And they're pretty good. They're very good tracks. And then I obviously did not. I stayed away from any other singles because you know what my. I've said this a lot. If you've seen previous videos or whatever, I stayed away from the singles that were coming out because I didn't want to like spoil it myself or whatever. And I did do a good job of that. Because now here we are with the rest of the songs on the album. Now, and I do have to say that they definitely did step it up a little bit more on this album than they did previously. In fact, they did step up a lot more than they did previously. And like, I'm just gonna like, I'll go over individual tracks later, but this is probably their best since True Defiance, I guess, or Extremist, one of those two albums. Those albums are definitely good. Like those two albums showed that they were good, and I think this is like one of the best since then, obviously, because we all know the previous three albums were very good, and this is better than one of those. So I probably would say this is like on the level of Extremist, kind of like I'll probably say that it's on the level of Extremist, and like I like that the production isn't. Ugh. Oh, sure, guys. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I don't. I like that the production isn't that bad on this album. There are a couple of like weird little like quirks on some tracks, like that are noticed, like errors on tracks like Chemicals, but like I think it's Chemicals. Either that or Revolutions. I'm not sure which one had like some kind of like clipping issue or whatever. But yeah, the rest of the album's pretty darn good, as I should say. Like there's a lot of good these songs done. Like I feel like this is the right way for Demon Hunter to go a little bit more melodic and stuff because um, they're kind of hard to describe as a genre because it's just the Demon Hunter genre, I should say. And like you could say the metalcore, groove metal, whatever, alternative metal. I don't know what the real genre classification is, but they are lumped in with a lot of metalcore bands. So there you go. But there is a lot of creativity to a lot of these songs. I like the creative like drums that Master has in them, like in the bridges and stuff. Like a lot of the creative like layering effects that song had. Pretty good song, as I would say. Like um um yeah, Another Place is kind of grungy. I feel like this is probably the closest. like one of these songs, Another Place in Godless, are probably the closest they've ever been to being like a little bit grungy, you could say. And like that's strange considering like Judas Priest, Richie Faulkner actually from Judas Priest is on the song Godless, like, and he kind of has that grit to it that like with his like guitar work, which I like a lot, like in that song particularly. Um, yeah, those songs are pretty good. Not like the most amazing songs, but at least in other places. Godless, I really liked. I must say, like I think this is the second half album where I think the second half really is filled with some great songs on it. Like it starts with like Freedom is Dead, of course, which we've all heard. Then we have Praise the Void again, which we've all heard. But it's acoustic. This one is obviously more rock oriented, guitar oriented, and stuff, and it works pretty well, I must say. Like there's a lot of cinematic stuff because I think this is a concept album, which is very cool. On I think Praise the Void and other tracks too. I really like the songs Revolutions and Devotion. Those two songs are probably among my favorites on the album because they do try a different tuning on the songs, and I think also Revolutions is a really unique track. Like I know there were some people like I that were saying it's kind of confusing or whatever, but I really dig how they were like this aggressive part and it goes into more of a calm, and I feel like it does mesh well in the song. Like I feel like there's so much that they do in the song that it's like good. And I think Ryan Clark really steps up on his vocals. Not that they're perfect all the time. Like I would say, like they're not like the best they've ever been. Like, and I'm personally not super big. I'm not as big on Ryan Clark's vocals as some other people, but I do think he's good on this album, especially on tracks like Revolutions, on Chemicals, Devotion, Godless. He's good. Those four tracks, that four-track combo, he's really good, and he does all that he can to make it good. Like, and even on tracks like Another Place and like Praise the Void and stuff, he's good. Like, um, there's not really much that I would say like is one of the weaker tracks on the album. Like, I do think like they should like there are a couple of weaker tracks. Like Heaven Don't Cry. I'm not big on. I'm sorry. I'm not really big on that song. It kind of just sounds okay, but it just doesn't do really all that much for me. Like I think this was the track that like was said. Oh, this kind of sounds like Outlive type stuff a little bit, and it's better than Outlive, but it's just just there. It's not really that interesting of a song when compared to the rest of the album. And along the way, the closing track, I feel like this is kind of a carbon copy of Silence the World, but without the guest vocalist or anything like that. Like, they don't really do as much to like really like separate this song from Silence the World. Like they sound very identical to each other, like in pacing and like length, especially. This is probably the longest song on the album, which I do appreciate. 8 minutes, 8 seconds. Like I do, they went longer on tracks, and that's cool. That's definitely a cool thing. They're going more lengthier. Like they're really letting things flesh out. But I just feel like it's kind of just okay. It's not really like I feel like the hooks on the song along the way aren't really as effective as other songs, and it's just there. Like it ends the album okay, but it just at least the standard edition. But I just feel like the other songs are better. Like the other songs better. Again, like um, I could say Defense Mechanism is another song. It's like one of the weaker ones, but like I do enjoy that song on a level. Like Soulfly is Max Cavalera is good in on it. Like they do use the guest vocalists and the guests in general on this album really well. And like this is like you know, I'm just looking at the whole other songs of the album, like the end with Revolutions and Devotion. Those four tracks before the closing track, like Revolutions, Chemicals, Godless, and Devotion. Those four, like, great songs. All of them are great, I think. Like, all of them are different. I mean, not Chemicals. Chemicals, I don't think is that, or Devotion. But Revolutions and Godless, I feel like, are different. They're new. And, it, this whole album kind of travels where Demon Hunter really hasn't gone as much before. It's more melodic, but it's more atmospheric. And this is the right way to go if you want to go softer with your stuff. There really isn't as much heaviness to this, like heaviness in like the world is a thorn, or like even their Earth storm the gates of hell and all that stuff. It's really not heavy in that sense, but it's heavy more in like the guitar work has like a heavy, like a rawness to it that's so good. Like and like I said before, like with Revolutions and Devotion, those are played in drop A, and the rest of the album is played in drop B. So they did try some new things, which is good with the tuning. Even though like some songs aren't, even though like the typical Demon Hunter traits that they have, it still works. I think Exile is a great album. I think definitely great. Now, like there are two more songs that haven't been released. At least to my knowledge, they haven't been released to the public yet. They're definitely not on Spotify, and they're definitely when I look at the Genius, the lyrics on Genius, it says that they're unreleased. Lyrics have yet to be released. Sleepwalker and the title track. Now, I don't know why that is. Um, I don't think the deluxe edition is available on Spotify. I will check. No, it's not. It's just Exile. It's just the album Exile. And, like, so. And I think a lot of fans will probably have to wait to hear those songs. Exile and Sleepwalker, or whatever that one was called. Sleepwalker, yeah. Which are the two songs that haven't been released yet. So, yeah, I'm still trying here to real quickly before I like do a summation about everything, like give final thoughts or whatever. I'm just gonna see the deluxe. I wonder if the deluxe is gonna be released on November 11th altogether, because like I don't know. I don't see anything that indicates. No, I thought I'm just looking real quick. It says Exile Demon Hunter. So I'm just checking something real quick. Sorry if I'm a little bit off guard a little bit. I'm just gonna see. Yeah, Exile. Yeah, it looks like they don't. It's just. Is it the deluxe edition? I'm not sure. They moved it up on the Amazon, so that's probably what I'm looking at right now. I don't know if the bonus tracks will be on there or whatever. So, if anybody has any further knowledge, then let me know for sure. But I don't see any evidence or anything like that, so I'll probably have to wait and see. But anyway, Exile, yeah, album and final thoughts. Definitely good. I was kind of expecting it to be, but it's definitely good. it's definitely Demon Hunter back on the right track, and I don't really see myself like really just growing out of this out or like I don't really see myself like disliking this album. I might find some tracks to be just there like along the way or along the way I made a pun. I unintentionally made a pun, but I don't know, if I'll think this is as bad as Outlive or anything like that. Not at all, because this album is good. So I don't know if it's one of the best albums I've heard this year. I really have to like look. Um, it's probably top 20 in the top 20 for sure. So on that level, it's an 8 out of 10, and that's my official ranking for this album is 8 out of 10. Like if the deluxe comes out, it will probably sway in one direction. I don't know, like, but I think 8 out of 10 is like a perfect um, rating for this album. So for me, anyways. So yeah, definitely tell me what you thought of Exile by Demon Hunter. Um, I might have a stream tomorrow where I discuss more about where I might like because I know there's a lot of people on here, like at least Zach D, who I'd want to have a conversation with about Demon Hunter um, and Exile and all that stuff. So in the chat, so leave comments and stuff down below. This is Captain Wolf signing out. Take care.